Okay, so this is about some of the subversion that goes on in this world, in particular on the part of Saudi Arabia against Iran. It's a pretty strange story. It basically says that a supposed Iranian television show based in London is actually owned and run by a guy who used to own Al Arabiya, which is a Saudi Arabian. But you know, when I was watching it, and I'll show you just the beginning of it. Okay, so, you know, that's that story, but what got me thinking was, why do I care about terrorists? And that led me to think, well, why do I care about the American people, right? I mean, just this morning I was thinking, well, why do so many Americans not care about other Americans? Why do they simply care about themselves? So why do they, well, I started to think about it, and I realized that a lot of them were brought up in situations of poverty, and there was nobody there to help them, and they got this constant propaganda that said, you know, you're on your own, do what you have to survive, right? And they didn't have government assistance or anything, or anybody to help them, so they decided that America is a place where you just do what you have to survive, and you don't think about, could there be a system for everybody like you in America to get some help, you know, arrange for some food, arrange for a roof over your head. That just isn't, and now they're old people, 70s, 80s, and they're still the same way. They can't see how the answer to their problems as a kid and to people that are poor is not to buckle under and do anything you can to survive, which plays into the hands of capitalists, right? Because then all of a sudden they've got a whole bunch of people who are more than happy and willing to do their bidding and follow their, you know, kowtow to whatever party they're, you know, in this case the Republican Party, obviously, and unfortunately in the last 20 years to the Democratic Party as well. So now there is no party except for the Green Party, and it gets all of about 1% of the vote. So, you know, I look at myself and I say, well, you know, I am guilty of not supporting terrorism, but supporting people who are called terrorists, because they're all terrorists, you know. I mean, so every Sunni Muslim in the Middle East. Well, my dad was a right-wing neocon, and yet he worked very closely with the Saudi Arabians. So a lot of what you see today is a result of what he did. So he went over there, and he was very close with the guy who became king, and he's not king anymore. And it was a good thing, because that meant that an American hillbilly, I mean, my dad was a farm boy from Missouri, couldn't be any closer to the Ozarks. We were right on the edge. And just total backwards hillbilly. I mean, I can remember my dad saying that how he very quickly lost his accent, because he realized that if he spoke that way out in California, that he wouldn't get a job, and he wouldn't, you know, people are very, so, I mean, just by that, you can see how complex it all is. Me talking about my people growing up like that, I'm talking about my parents. You know, my mom grew up in a little town, Corning, California. My dad grew up just outside of Exeter, Missouri. Yeah, nowhere. Cassville, you might have heard of. Nothing out there. And as a result, just because they kowtowed, they are the ones who project this image that, well, America is a place where anybody can make it if they just buckle down and work hard. Well, that's not really the truth, is it? Because people like my mom and dad made it to where they are, not by buckling down. I mean, my mom worked maybe 2 years of her whole life. My dad worked hard, but they buckled down and kowtowed. I mean, they didn't. My mom never worked, like I said. They kowtowed. My dad did the business of the neocons around the world. You know, in Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia, and all around the Middle East and North Africa. You know, he went to all those countries. And under the cover of working for first Condis, which is Assam Khashoggi, and then Singer, sewing machines, that got him all over the place. Working for Condis was where he met the king or princes of Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, and developed that relationship. And then eventually, after working for Singer and doing all that, he ended up in Saudi Arabia. Working for a Saudi Arabian, ultra wealthy Saudi Arabian. Anyway, my point here is that I support a lot of, you know, like Al-Nusra and all these people. I don't support the people in them who do horrible things like cut off the head of a journalist. But I do look at that and say, well, why? I mean, it's not like anybody would grow up saying, oh, when I grow up I want to be a guy who cuts the heads off of infidels, right? I mean, it's a horror, right? It's hell on earth, these things that happen. But I do ask, well, why do they do it, right? It's not something that anybody would see themselves doing in the future or end up doing. So why? So in that sense, I get called like a supporter of terrorism or something, just because I'm curious, right? Curiosity killed Martin Drummond. But I want to know what it is. And when I look at it, what I find out is that these people have actually noble reasons, high-minded reasons for doing the horrible things that they do, which doesn't justify them doing it, but I think that we need to have empathy. See, that's where what I think we're missing. I think if everybody had empathy, like if everybody had empathy for the plight of the poor, then we would all vote for people like Bernie Sanders, who obviously feel like we should take care of our own citizens. And I think that they would vote for people who have empathy for the people overseas who the terrorists are protecting. Because I look at Al Nusra and I say, you know, I keep researching them over and over again because I'm wondering, where is the terrorism? What, because they took in one Al-Qaeda accountant for a year and then dumped him because, well, he died, he was murdered, or killed or whatever. So, you know, I keep on looking at all these groups and wondering where the terrorism is. I see them fighting wars. So, you know, they get involved in these tit-for-tat terrorist attacks. The Shia or the Alawites or whatever just blow the shit out of a whole bunch of women and children, and so they pack a truck up with explosives and drive it next to a Shia mosque somewhere and blow it up. That's war. I know it's not the kind of war we'd like. We'd like to go back to the old, you know, warfare where armies faced off on a field, but look at the wars. You can't do that. If you're the good guys, you can't raise an army to beat their army. They have overwhelming technology and more tanks and airplanes and all the stuff you don't have.
I'll put that up on YouTube and tell everybody he's feeling sorry for himself. Yeah. That's the guy right there. He's feeling sorry for himself.
Actually, it's kind of funny because this video is called Some Silly Dream because the American dream is just that. It's just a silly dream for 90% of Americans. And this is about a guy who owned a hardware store across the street from me in Russell, Kentucky, which is just a little town just north of Ashland, Kentucky, which maybe none of you know, but you know, for years I would go in there and look for things to buy, and his prices would be 3 times what I could get it at Walmart. So I wouldn't buy it there because why? Not because I'm a bad American, but because I didn't have money to spend 3 times or sometimes 10 times what I could get it at Walmart. So I'd go to Walmart and buy it. Now, this is an economics thing, and I'm going to throw it in. It's not his fault that he couldn't charge less. And America needs to find a way so that it's not a choice between hurting him or hurting me. You see? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Places like Walmart create the situation where, well, if I buy from him, I'm screwed, right? But if I buy from Walmart, then he's screwed. You know, so you're taking a choice, and of course you're going to choose yourself, right? So what America has to do is create a situation, and I know Trump's claiming he's trying to do that, but in the end he's not going to be able to do it. Because what we need is to equalize these situations so that people like this are able to sell products made in America at the same price as Walmart's selling them at. Now, there's another option, and that is just continue to buy them from Walmart, right? And let there be a huge trade deficit. See, I've never understood that. As a trained economist with a bachelor's in business administration from one of the top business schools in the United States, which means nothing, by the way. The reason I'm so intelligent when it comes to economics is because I study it all day long on my own. That's where the competence comes in. And with that competence, I'm going to tell you that the trade deficit is a good thing. All it means is that we're trading all kinds of stuff, you know, what have you, food, electronics, even technology. I mean, we're even importing their technology. And we're giving them piles of paper, printed paper. Yeah, dollars are nice. I know it's mostly just ledgers. It's just, you know, a number in a computer. But the point is that they're sending us all kinds of stuff. And then they're getting stuck with this paper, which at this point, they've got so much of, they're just trying to sell it to other countries because it's kind of useless to them. We don't allow them to come to the United States and buy up America. We're smarter than that. Americans own America, and so their paper is worthless. I mean, they can say, well, we have all this money and we want to buy you, but if we don't sell, then their paper is worthless. So they can trade it with other countries, and if those other countries are stupid enough to buy it, thinking that it will get them an end to buy America, all it gets them is they can use it to buy American products, right? But they can't buy American land, American companies. I mean, they try to, and to a certain extent they might get away with that, but they can't get too far because America would raise hell if like say the Chinese bought Wisconsin, you know, or something like that. So just from an economic point of view, I'm not so sure that you can't say that the bigger the trade deficit, the better off we are. I mean, we've got their stuff. They're working cheap for us when they could be working for their own people. Anyway, the results are disastrous for just regular Americans. So here's me. I made this song, and here's me. Here's the video.
Just thought I'd get some video before the place closes.
All right, go right for what you like.
Where's Scott at?
Scott, you good looking guy right there.
Can you make the train go around one time for me? For my video? Get your... Thanks. Appreciate it. So what are you going to do?
I'm hungry.
Oh, yeah? Going to be looking for...
You just line up about 11, so I'll probably get up for about 10:30.
So, a funny thing about the words, everybody thinks I'm talking about smoking weed or something. I'm not. I'm talking about how I get high off the news. And, you know, what I was talking about back there is just how back then I used to spend my time. You know, obviously I was working all the time, but I used to constantly look forward to the news. I guess I get that from my dad. My dad used to punish me for if I cried for attention when he used to watch the news because he wanted to see what was going on in Vietnam. But, you know, I'm talking about just to get high, so I get high off of seeing the news, and I do. When I see something new, I'm addicted to information, and I get a buzz off of it. When I see some, you know, I mean, I can remember when I flipped on the TV at 9 a.m. on September 11th, 2001, and I see one of the World Trade Centers on fire, and just moments after that, another plane hit the other World Trade Center. And I was just like, holy shit. I mean, that's a rush. You know, you get a rush from it. Not of excitement, a little bit of horror, right? I mean, you're just like, whoa. And as a result of things like that, my whole life, I mean, I can remember waiting for the teletype at the Holiday Inn in Beirut, waiting to hear the latest on a war that I was right in the middle of. You know, I mean, you could step out the front door and get shot at. I mean, I did. Got shot at out by the pool, got shot at up on the roof. Believe it or not, it's very hard for a sniper to hit you from that, so you'd hear the bullets going by. You didn't actually, oh yeah, you ran. You got cover, but there wasn't much of a chance of you getting hit. So, you know, for all my life I've been interested in the news. It's not a coincidence that and you know, so it's always struck me as kind of weird the way I run in, like here I am doing a piece that's about empathy, and I'm equating the empathy that people should have for the quote-unquote terrorists not really for them because they're terrorists, but for the people who they represent, which I don't think the terrorists would even exist if they didn't have that base, right? And this is why the real horrible Americans, that's how they justify killing just regular, like all the Sunnis. It's like they don't care if it's us bombing them or if it's the Assad regime bombing them. America seems to be on board with killing Sunnis, just massive, what is the equivalent of a slow genocide. And there's, I don't know how many billions of them. How are we going to kill them all? It's just the whole thing's insane. And, I'm equating that also with the lack of empathy for not just poor people around the world, but more or less about Americans, not caring about Americans. And I just I can't do that. I can't just say that I don't care, because to me, the one way that you can make sure that you don't end up poor is by creating a system that does help all Americans. Now, I'm not talking about loser jerk-offs who don't give a shit and they just want to have what they need without any kind of reciprocal effort on their part. I mean, only an insane person would think that they can just get stuff for free and never have to participate in the system. So, once again, as I've said a million times, I only believe in people benefiting from the system who are willing to contribute whatever they're capable of contributing. Obviously, if you're in a wheelchair or disabled or mentally ill, there are limits to what you can participate. But if you're a willing participant, if you don't get up every morning and go, give me my breakfast, but I'm not willing to, participate to my ability in the system that gives me my breakfast every morning, then that's not right, obviously. And I don't advocate that. But to me, the solution for an individual to taking care of themselves is to support a system that takes care of everybody, because you're one of everybody. So how would I apply that to terrorists? So as an international, I would say that we should support systems that address the grievances of these people who the terrorists are acting on behalf of. The people who support the terrorists, just morally and ethically, right? They're their armies, they're their F-16s, they're their Abram tanks, the terrorists are. We just drop a bomb from 10,000 feet, they fill a car up with explosives and set it off in a, somewhere, or whatever, whatever you want to call terrorism. So, support systems that address those people's grievances. So, the Palestinians, Hamas, PLO, actually do something for them. Their grievances are legitimate. I mean, I've looked into them. There's no doubt. And Americans who are brainwashed into thinking otherwise are really stupid. They're really arrogant and egotistical, and they're expressing the arrogance and the egotism of the nasty ultra rich who just absolutely don't give a shit who dies or suffers, so that they can have their little ongoing party from, hundreds, thousands of years.